Guys, morning. I use my nose for my phone because I can't get the my hands working with the gloves. I want to show you a video on Audi 80 units. In particular, I've got a cabriolet I'm working on. Lambda O2 sensor change. Not post engine, but pre catalytic converter. So before the catalytic converter, and I believe there's only one O2 sensor on these cars. Typically there's two. If there is another one, please let me know. But I can't see anything like that. What it's used for is to measure the oxygen, residual oxygen in the exhaust system after the engine post combustion. If there is any, it's deemed that the engine's too lean, and then what happens is it starts to richen the mixture. So it's like a hysteresis system where it will monitor oxygen in the system, and if it sees too much, it will adjust the fuel mixture so that fuel air is optimum. You're talking about controlling a mechanical fuel injection system, so it's old and it's very simple. Now, I went online to look at how these things work, and one of the guys that posted the similar video showed, there's a pulse voltage going through to the sensor with the heater. It's a 3-wire unit, just like mine, which means it's got a heater on it, in it. And then you've got two lines for feedback, which is a loop, which is a voltage loop, and then it works on that variation. So the variation sits between, from memory, 1 millivolt to about 2 volt. 900 millivolt to 2 volt, and it should sit in between there. And it should be quite a steady reading. It goes up and down, but very slowly, very steadily. Now, mine didn't do that. Mine kind of like jumped up and go to 2.4, and then down to 700, 800 millivolt, and 1.4 volts, and then it goes up to 2.4 volts again. So it kind of like kept fluctuating. And I thought, well, that's working. It's definitely working. But the guy said it should be stable. Now, to be honest with you, I didn't think there was anything wrong with my O2 sensor. This car of mine is, 27 years old. It doesn't look like a unit that's supposed to be changed. It's supposed to stay in there forever and never need changing unless it's been broken or tampered with. I don't think there was anything wrong with my old one. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is my 27-year-old sensor. Have a good look at that, chaps. You can see that the exhaust gas blew through those chutes in there. And it worked. I tested the power. It's on. But, Jesus, I tell you what. I just thought to myself, well, let me change it because the car isn't giving me the mileage that I was looking for. I've tuned the engine up. I might need to do some more adjustments like the leads. But I know that I've got everything correct. The fuel injection system's optimum. I set the screw setting on the baffle plate to about 2 turns in. So it's from mid, so it's quite lean, a little bit leaner than rich, and it's running great. But I'm still getting only about 28 miles to the gallon, 26 miles to the gallon, and I know that this engine should be giving at least 34, 36, mid-urban. So I thought it's this guy. So I took it out and I replaced him. But taking him out after 27 years, not good, eh? So it was impossible. I needed to use heat, and I used a lot of heat, and it took many turns, and you can see it stripped its way out. So I was left with no choice but to get a new one. I could have retapped it, but I just thought, no. For 24 quid, I'll get a new one, which is what I've done. And I thought what I needed to do, and I decided what I'll do is I'll try to retap the hole, and then go from there. So if I swap the video around with my nose, there's the bad boy in question, and you can see it's a 2.3 5-cylinder unit, It's just the 10 valve, but it's a great engine, and you can actually tune these up quite cheaply. All it needs is a bit more air going through here, and you'll get 20 horsepower more. You really should be able to get about up to 140, 100. At a push, I reckon you won't get more than 145 horsepower if you gave this thing a little turbo. And because mine doesn't have an aircon, I've got space for one, or even a supercharger, because there's a free pulley belt down there which I could take off. Anyway, that's a project for another day. As you can see, I fiddle around with foil. I'm going to replace this with foil tape, which is thicker, just to give the induction air a bit more cooling, because this manifold was getting very hot, which doesn't really help matters when you're trying to eke power out of an engine which has really been reduced, destandardized. Sorry, not destandardized, but de-optimized, because these engines can punch out easily 300 horsepower if given, enough fuel and air and cooling. These things are monsters. And so, the 20 valve is better. But you know what? The thing that I believe with 20 valve, because I work with engines and I know what friction losses are all about. And, twin cam sounds great, but now you're just loading more springs in there and more valves and more belts. And so, yes, you may be increasing your power somewhat, but you're really also taking a lot off. So if you keep things simple, you might actually find that you get away with just a little bit more, or actually considerably more out of a very simple thing without damaging it. Now, when some people put racing cams in here, which you can do, but I'll be very careful about that, because now you're starting to tamper with the engine's well-being, and they're balanced, and getting a 5-cylinder balanced is already a challenge. So to then further increase the timing on it, you're asking for trouble. So I wouldn't do it. I would just keep it as it is. The engineers know what they're doing with these things. They detune them so that it's commercially viable in Europe. And to be honest, if you really wanted to get more out of it, there's not much more you need to do other than adding fuel and air and make sure it stays really not cold. All right, guys, I'm going to go underneath here. I'm really happy that I've made some progress here this morning. I wasn't expecting to, because you know what it's like with these fucking things. They always give you trouble. So here's my bed, my new bed, and this morning I managed to successfully tap out the hole. I'm really stoked about that. Oh god. So and I'm a small guy and I can barely get under here. I don't know if you can see, but I managed with my M18 tap set. I managed to buy 2 for £6, and I'm so happy that just with a bit of lithium grease, I managed to carefully, going back to my fitting memories, training. I tapped this hole out really nice, and I've just about finishing the second stage tap now, just to make sure it's all nice and good. Where are my taps? You can probably see one of them over there. And it's done a lovely job. So I'm just going to clear this hole up now and get some copper slip in there. Then I'm going to stick my new O2 sensor probe in there, which apparently is better. It's also lambda, obviously, but with this done, I can then I have the feeling that I'm just going to have a better drive and a better economy in this engine. What I also wanted to show you guys, this is a small trick for my electrical days. Rather than just pull the thing out and and have to now reroute the wire through the engine bay, I just dropped an old spare USB cord through with the old wire, and I pulled the old probe down through the engine bay. Now when I take the new one back up, I'll just tie this cord to this old lead. I'm sorry guys, I can barely move down here. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll just pull this lead up from the top, and it'll pull my lambda sensor cord with it, and then away you go. Yeah. So obviously it won't be near the exhaust like it is now. It's just dangling here in my face until I can get this job done. I'm going to sign off. Hang on, let me see if I can do this job while I've got you in my hand. I don't have one of them fancy camera things. Quite limited with space here, so it's been quite a challenge. Not as bad as most jobs. Some jobs can be worse. But I've just, because your tap set automatically cleans out these things, you don't really have to go bonkers, you know, cleaning out your thread, because it's already done it for you. If you turn your taps in 360 to 2 revolutions, or I wouldn't test it more than that. I would go about 1 revolution in and then turn it back half a revolution every step of the way till you're fully in. Now, I've done this. I'm not going to stick this dirty tap back in here because I've only got one hand, and you know, I've done all the hard graft. I don't want to undo it, so just bear with me as I try to take off my copper slip. Get some grease on here. So this New Zealand guy did was he used some anti-seize. Yeah, it's pointless putting lubrication in there. That will never work. So anti-seize, copper grease on the probe thread. Not on the probe. And then you gently get that in. Right, so here's the new one. I don't know if you guys can see it because I can't see my screen. Hang on, wait a minute, I can. I'm going to use my nose again. Sorry. So, right. There's the new guy. There's the hole. And I need to get some copper grease. Sorry, anti-seize compound on here. When I was a kid, my dad said to me, this is stuff we use on wheel nuts and things like that to stop them